Good evening. I'm Alan Devlin. Thank you for joining us here tonight. All eyes are on New York as former President Nicolas Maduro and his wife will appear here in federal court tomorrow on several charges. Right now, the pair is being held at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. Their arraignment is set for noon. They'll face federal charges over drug trafficking and working with gangs designated as terrorist organizations, which Maduro denies. And tonight, there is still a lot of uncertainty over the future of Venezuela and its leadership. Tonight, we have team coverage for you. Christy Kalishian and Christian Benavidez standing by with more on the reaction pouring in tonight. But let's begin with our Lisa Rozner outside the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, where Maduro is currently being held. Good evening, Lisa.
Good evening, Alan. Maduro and his wife were brought here to the notorious jail Saturday night, and they will remain here until their arraignment in federal court in Lower Manhattan, which is tomorrow at noon. Now, a throng of Venezuelan expatriates were here earlier today, and this is coming as world leaders all day Sunday talked about what's next. On CBS Face the Nation Sunday, Secretary of State Marco Rubio suggested the U.S. would not govern Venezuela day to day, other than enforcing an existing oil quarantine on the country. It comes one day after President Trump announced the U.S. would be running Venezuela following its ouster of leader Nicolas Maduro.
The key to what that regime relies on is their economy fueled by oil. None of the money from the oil gets to the people, and that's a tremendous amount of leverage that will continue to be in place until we see changes that not just further the national interest of the United States, which is number one, but also that lead to a better future for the people of Venezuela.
Nicolas Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, landed in Brooklyn Saturday night, shackled and surrounded by a group of FBI and DEA agents before being taken to the federal prison in Brooklyn. The couple landed on American soil hours earlier at Stewart International Airport in Orange County and were taken to DEA offices in Manhattan for booking on various drug and weapons charges, including narco-terrorism. Maduro had been wanted in the U.S. with a $50 million reward since 2020. This newly unsealed indictment from the Southern District of New York adds to allegations from his previous case alleging Maduro worked to traffic drugs with the Colombian guerrilla group. President Trump said Saturday the U.S. will take over Venezuela without explaining how, for how long, and whether U.S. troops are needed to do so. Venezuela's defense minister issued a warning to the world Sunday demanding the release of Maduro and his wife.
It was an act of cowardice, but it also represents a threat to the world order. And what has happened against Venezuela can happen to any other country. This is a colonialist aggression and represents a repressive hand over Latin America and the Caribbean. And we reject that.
Trump suggested Saturday that Venezuela's vice president, now interim president Dulce Rodriguez, will cooperate, but she has denounced the U.S. operation and insists Maduro is still head of state. The UN Security Council is scheduled to meet Monday at the request of Colombia, backed by Russia and China. The UN Secretary General said the U.S. attacking Venezuela sets a dangerous precedent. On ABC's This Week, U.S. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer criticized the Trump administration's actions.
Secretary Rubio, he says the United States has the authority to do what they're doing.
They do not. They do not.
Why not?
He couldn't even answer your question. There is no authority to go. They did not just do ships off the water. They went inside Venezuela, bombed civilian as well as military places, and it's a violation of the law to do what they did without getting the authorization of Congress.
And in the meantime, Venezuela's defense minister has announced his support of Rodriguez to lead Venezuela as president. He's also urging the Venezuelan people to resume their activities peacefully, including going back to work. Again, Maduro and his wife are set to be arraigned Monday in federal court in Lower Manhattan at noon. For now, we are live outside MDC in Sunset Park, Brooklyn. Lisa Rozner, CBS News, New York.
Lisa, thank you. Now, Maduro isn't the first world leader to be held at the Metropolitan Detention Center. The former president of Honduras, Juan Orlando Hernandez, was held in the same unit at MDC during his 2024 drug trafficking trial in Manhattan federal court. He was sentenced to 45 years in prison for trafficking hundreds of tons of cocaine into the U.S. That was before President Trump pardoned and freed Hernandez last month. Now, that Brooklyn jail's other notable current detainees include the co-founder of Mexico's Sinaloa drug cartel, Ismael El Mayo Zambada Garcia, as well as Luigi Mangione. At one point, it also held R. Kelly, Sean Diddy Combs, Sam Bankman-Fried, and Ghislaine Maxwell. And tonight, we're getting a look at some of the damage from the military strike in Caracas that set Maduro's capture into motion. This is the aftermath at La Carlota Air Base, one of several Venezuelan military facilities targeted in yesterday's operation. Residents in neighborhoods outside of the capital also returned to their damaged homes today. It's still unclear if any civilians were injured in these strikes. And protests have erupted around the world in response to the latest developments in Venezuela. In Madrid, Spain, people hit the streets. And in Mexico, dozens of people protested in front of the U.S. Embassy in Mexico City, waving Venezuelan flags and chanting. Here back home in the U.S., over 100 people gathered in Kansas City, Missouri, to rally before marching. And on the West Coast, crowds protested by holding signs and chanting along the streets in Sacramento. And here in our area, those opposing the strikes in Venezuela gathered to protest earlier today outside of the Metropolitan Detention Center, calling President Trump's actions illegal. But our Christy Kalishian also spoke with some people who believe the strike and capture needed to happen.
Hands off Venezuela!
Hands off Venezuela!
Demonstrators barricaded in a portion of the sidewalk across from where Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife Celia Flores have been held on alleged narco-terrorism charges since arriving to New York on Saturday night.
As people in the United States, we have to oppose this action because what's stopping Trump from doing this to other countries?
The groups of organizations demonstrating Sunday criticizing President Donald Trump and Operation Absolute Resolve, saying it was motivated by Venezuela's oil reserves and control over the country, not by the drug charges President Maduro has been wanted for since 2020.
If it really cares about, prosecuting drug traffickers, then why did they release Juan Orlando Hernandez, who was convicted in the same U.S. court that they want to try Maduro in now?
And those speaking out against the demonstration here believe that if the strike and capture didn't happen now, change wouldn't have come for a number of years for the Venezuelan people.
And not just because the U.S. or the sanctions, the government that was there has been corrupt enough to earn their own blame or fault.
Esteban Chacin fled Venezuela 9 years ago. He and other Venezuelans we heard from say the life they fled was unsustainable under Maduro's authoritarian rule, and that the strikes and capture, although audacious, is the only way out.
I saw families, entire families, eating from the garbage. It's a sacrifice, yes, but it's necessary in this case because we are stuck. We don't have solutions.
Zulimar Mendoza left her family in Venezuela in 2018 and says she's been working double to send them money. Throughout the weekend, Venezuelan flags have been on display out of celebration for what's being described by Mendoza as a light at the end of the tunnel. But others disagree with Maduro's sudden capture.
Celebrating a shame, celebrating a crime. How can somebody be celebrating a crime? The kidnapping of a president.
For now, with President Donald Trump announcing temporary U.S. control over Venezuela, its natives watch and wait.
I just hope that it all falls in hand of Venezuelans and that we can dictate our own future.
Outside of Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, Christy Kalishian, CBS News, New York.
And Venezuelans in South Florida are celebrating for a second day over what many are calling a historic turning point for their home country. Doral has the largest Venezuelan population of any city in the U.S. And that is exactly where we find Kristen Benavidez live from a rally that's just getting underway. Kristen, what can you tell us?
Alan, about 40% of the residents here in Doral, Florida, are either Venezuelan or of Venezuelan descent, and there have been around-the-clock celebrations here following Maduro's ouster. In fact, I have Maria Teresa Morin, who is the director of the party that was founded by Maria Corina Machado. Can you just tell me, you've been out here with folks, how did you feel, and how have people been feeling since the strike?
Well, at first, I received a phone call from Washington, D.C., and they told me something is going on in Venezuela. And when I knew what was going on, I was like really excited, but I couldn't believe it. I was, is this really happening to us? After so many years, more than 26 years waiting for this to happen, I couldn't really believe that it was really happening. And then later, when they told us that Maduro and Celia Flores were caught, it was like, oh my God. I mean, this is a dream come true for all Venezuelans. We have been waiting for this moment for too many years. And watching them yesterday in handcuffs is a dream come true for all Venezuelans. Yeah, and we were looking at him like the criminal he is, and his wife. Was really, we felt really more than happy. This is beyond happiness. I mean, I have no words to describe what we felt. We are still, we're also exhausted. We haven't slept like 48 hours, and this is still, we cannot give credit to this.
Can you just tell me, you hear that Maduro has been captured and that he's going to face justice in the United States.
Yes.
What goes through your heart?
Finally, justice is about to be done for all Venezuelans. I mean, he's facing what we prayed for 27 years. And finally, all those people that have died, all the exile, 90 million Venezuelans had to flee the country because of this criminal, of this gang member, this narco trafficker. This is like justice, this feeling that finally justice is knocking at your door.
What is next for Venezuela? Can you tell me, is freedom and democracy on the horizon for Venezuela?
Freedom, democracy, a bright future for all Venezuelans. Millions of Venezuelans are coming back, me included, are coming back to our country to start working to restore everything, democracy, freedom, all those families that were destroyed. This is going to be the greatest honor for us to go back and fight for our country.
Incredible. Thank you so much, Maria Teresa Molina.
Thank you.
Venezuela, of course, the road ahead is a difficult one, but as you can see, there's just so much hope by Venezuelans and Venezuelan Americans here in South Florida. Alan?
So, Christian, many of Doral's Venezuelan residents, they still have family back home. Have they been able to get in contact with any of them? Because we understand there's been loss of power, there's been loss of internet and broadband. What's going on the ground here one day after Maduro's capture?
Well, look, it's an incredibly difficult situation. You have to imagine that the U.S. airstrikes, which were targeted, did take out a number of targeted areas, but still, Venezuela for a long time, and Venezuelans have had to rely on food lines and assistance in order to live. What I've been gathering from the folks who are here, who have been in touch with their families in Venezuela, is that there is a lot of hope, but they are sort of holding their breath, waiting to see what happens next. Will there be freedom? Will there be democracy? That's what a lot of folks here and their families back home are hoping for.
Christian Benavidez live in Doral, Florida for us tonight. Christian, I think a lot of people waiting on that exact answer, what comes next. Thank you. And the FAA has lifted travel restrictions around the Caribbean airspace that were put in place because of Maduro's capture. Passengers were left stranded yesterday due to hundreds of flights being canceled altogether, many still struggling to rebook. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says while flights have resumed, travelers should work with their airlines if their flight was affected. Carriers such as American, United, Delta, and JetBlue say they have added extra flights to accommodate some of those passengers. And you just heard Christian talking about it there. Starlink says it's providing free internet service in Venezuela through February 3rd. The company owned by Elon Musk delivers mobile broadband through a network of orbiting satellites. Metrics from NetBlocks showed a sudden loss of internet connectivity in Venezuela's capital city yesterday. The internet advocacy group said it corresponded to power cuts during the U.S. military operation. And be sure to stay with CBS News New York for continuing coverage. We'll be live at Manhattan Federal Court for tomorrow's arraignment of Nicolas Maduro, and we'll bring you updates as they happen. Then tune in tomorrow night for the official launch of the CBS Evening News with Tony DeCopel. That's beginning at 6:30 p.m.